Sometimes you do the quote at the beginning. Like, are you going to do a quote at the beginning for me? You're going to pick something out of this interview and it's going to sit there and then you're going to do the music? Because sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. I don't know what that decision-making process is. Do you flip a coin? Do you have a dream?
It's just random, to be honest. It's all
There
random.
you
But
go.
for
It's
you,
perfect. See?
definitely, though, it's going to have a quote in the beginning.
All right. I think you ought to use that drop of me asking you if you're going to do it.
You are now tuning in to the Going North podcast with your host, best-selling author, professional speaker, and member of the John Maxwell team, Dominic Dom Brightman. And every Monday and Thursday, we're going to hear the voice of a different author sharing their gifts, stories, and expertise to help you charge forward in life. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, we bring you some fabulous humans from across the globe. Today is a fabulous day. Yes, it is, because we got a living legend in the building, baby. Yes, indeed, a living legend in the building. So how many of y'all know Victoria's Secret? I'm pretty sure a lot of you do. Well, today's a little different because instead of Victoria's Secret, we're going to be featuring one of the legends from probably one of the most legendary movies of all time, The Secret, as well as another movie that's going to be just as legendary, probably more legendary than The Secret, How Thoughts Become Things. Because today's special guest, my friends, today's special guest, the one, the only BD himself, the bountiful and debonair Bob Doyle. How you feeling today, sir?
Dom, I absolutely could not be better. But I got to say, you set him up for a Victoria's Secret model and you gave him me. And there's just no way they're not swimming in a river of disappointment right now. But we're going to try now to pull it out and get them engaged in changing their lives, I guess. But I'm telling you.
Hey, don't worry. It's not like either of us are wearing the material, so we're good.
Well, this is audio only. How would you know that?
Ah, touche. That's right. Keeping it zany all day. That's right. Zany
Well,
all day.
you got to. It doesn't have to be such a serious conversation all the time. And people do take it way seriously sometimes. And it adds a whole air of seriousness to what should be super fun. And that's creating your ideal life, right? Whether you're using law of attraction or however you're doing it. But people just bring this tone of, okay, I'm working hard at this and I'm serious about changing my life. And they forget how to play and it's not as creative as endeavor. So yes, I absolutely like to try to remind people that this whole conversation can be fun and light.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Lighter than popcorn, even.
Yes, Dom, even lighter than popcorn.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Corny jokes ahoy. That's right.
Popcorny.
Yes. Ah, yeah, that's right. The corny joke hour with the legendary Bob Doyle, baby. That's right.
Legendary.
Yeah,
Legendary.
man.
I'd like to find one of those books where I'm listed as legend. But it's nice of you to say. I think the movie does have some serious sticking power. It is surprising. We're almost 15 years later, still talking about it, still has pull, I guess, in the personal development community. I don't know that if it came out today, it would fly, though. Isn't that interesting? But back when it came out, everything was perfect. And I've been in several other movies that have tried to be The Secret. And I think what Doug has done here, Doug Vermeeren, with the How Thoughts Become Things, is I think a really good logical next step, and not rehashing the same thing that the other movies kind of tried to rehash, and law of attraction type of stuff. And the How Thoughts Become Things movie is, I think it's just definitely more grounded in sort of science and how, on the practical plane, how your thoughts become things. I mean, there's some talk of energy and a little bit of a hint of woo-woo sprinkled in, but not much. it's really designed to be super practical.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Because I watched the movie in its entirety, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I actually like it a little bit better than The Secret, to be honest, because it's real grounded in that truth, and it's not the whole so you know woo woo and the high production. It's like, yeah, this thing happened, and then it's like, yeah, no work, just believe it, and it magically appears, a rabbit
But
out of the
but
hat.
but 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 Dom, see, that's the thing is it's not what we said, but it is what people took. And I get it. And I because because of how they presented it, those are the things you walk away with. It's almost a magical thinking type of thing. But if you go back, we do talk about action and we talk about all of the things that people and we talk about things other than money and getting stuff. There's relationships, there's health, there's world peace. But people will see the film and remember what they want. And I get all of that. And back then it was such a fascinating new conversation for so many people, and I was so into it. 3 years up to that, the energy of it and the quantum physics of it and the vibration and all of it, it was the science of it was what was fascinating to me. But then now years later I'm realizing that even though it's still fascinating, it's just confusing to people, and they trying to make it magical or whatever it is that they're doing. And the fact of the matter is you don't need to know any of that stuff. You just be in alignment with who you want to be and create a vision of that person, and just be that person. And really the law of attraction and all the energy invisible stuff is just going to happen without you having to obsess over, am I doing it right, am I doing it right? Just go be you. We weren't born with this necessity to know all these techniques and do vision boards and stuff like that. We were born with the ability to create. We were born with our passions. We were born with the ability to take action. But we were also born with this brain that was extremely malleable and programmable, which could be used for great purposes. And for some people, they wire themselves for amazing success, and other people are wired in such a way that they don't find success because they don't. That's just not how they were literally programmed from their environment, and they didn't know they could choose otherwise. But you can, and you can choose now, and you can start a rewiring. But the problem is that it's not easy as people will make it seem in movies and in books, because you've got decades of your wiring going, decades. And it takes a while. You're going to have to grow new neural pathways to become this new person who's going to attract all these new things. And you can't expect that to happen in 7 easy steps or just 30 days or whatever. You took your whole life to wire yourself this way. But being intentional, it's not like you have to wait another lifetime. But because you're taking control over it, you're being intentional, you can make it happen faster. You can supercharge the thoughts with emotion and all kinds of different things. And that's really, I think, what we're trying to address in the latest movie.
Yes, indeed, and addressed it so well. And funny enough, it actually led to one of the questions from one of our listeners, the lovely Amy Bernier, and it got in a way you actually kind of alluded to it because her question was is like, how do you suggest we approach challenges and challenging emotions in a way that helps us to feel our feelings and still embody a high vibration? So it's kind of interesting. It kind of goes with programming. Do you think there's other things that may align with that to really get to that point to really actually
Well,
get
I
into
think
that state?
people need to know that negative emotions are part of the deal. It's there's nothing wrong with them. The problem is when we fixate on them, right? And we just wallow in them. And when we do that for too long, we become that. We become a person who fixates and wallows, and then our wiring is that way, and it becomes harder and harder to change. But the number one skill I'm teaching people now is not another law of attraction technique. It is about learning how to become the observer when you have a moment of upset or disempowerment or whatever, the feelings you're not liking, to be able to realize in that moment, hey, I'm just running a program here. There's no truth to this. My reaction is 100% programmed and wired in me. And if I want to, I can choose an infinite other number of ways of being. Now, your wiring is going to say, no, this is the only way you can be. First of all, you have to be right about this. That's what it loves, right? Your wiring just loves to be right, even if it's about your limitations. So that dopamine hit or whatever you get from being right about how bad things are is why you do it, because you haven't yet experienced the better dopamine hit of getting accomplished, having your dreams come true, basically. So you fight for the limitation that you're familiar with, and your wiring makes that easy. But you have to know who you want to become that's different than who you are now. That's the very first step. And during that process of becoming that, you're going to reach the limit of your wiring. You're going to hear all the voices say, you can't do that, and here's why, and you don't deserve it, and a million other things. And that's when you say, okay, well, there's my wiring. Now I'm going to keep going anyway, because that's what the person I want to become would do. And the quicker you can start acting in alignment with the person you want to become without waiting for the circumstances to be a certain way before you can be that way, you're going to accelerate your progress. And there's the quantum physics, vibrational reason for that. But then there's just the freaking practical down to earth. If you act more in alignment with the person you want to become, you're going to occur differently to other people. You're going to be more magnetic, more attractive. You're going to be more creative. You're going to be more resourceful. Things are just going to happen for you. It doesn't even have to seem magical. It's just, yeah, because you're taking different action. But, you know, what you don't see behind the scenes is all the energy and the moving all these people into place. And that's the cool woo-woo stuff. But you don't have to know it. And if it's stopping you from getting progress, you know, making progress in your journey, then please stop thinking about it and just get clear on who you want to be and what that person looks, feels like, and what they want in their life.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And it's so true. It's like, wow. So teaching folks to observe, and I feel like that's something that a lot of folks really don't do, especially when it comes to self-observation.
They're reacting. They're because they don't know that they can. They just think this is the way it is. That's the way our wiring works, is it defines our truth. So most of us are not assessing our reactions and our responses. We just go, well, this is what's true, and this is how I feel about it, and I'm going to express it and feel this way. And if it makes me angry, I'm just going to be angry for however long I have learned it's appropriate to be angry, or I'm going to be sad, or I'm going to be worried, or I'm going to be stressed, all based on what I've learned about what's appropriate to responding to this situation. And yet the person right next to you who's wired differently will witness and be a part of perhaps the exact same situation, but respond totally differently because they see a different truth than you. And guess what? Nobody's right.
uh, Gotta love it. Because, I mean, heck, it kind of even goes with the programming, and heck, even sometimes the filters that we have on our eyes and ears these days.
Oh, we've got so many oh my God, we couldn't survive without our filters. But we have to understand where our filters are limiting us. You know, what is it that we're not looking at, you know, or filtering out of our lives because we are threatened by the bigness of who we could be if we didn't, or whatever. You know, that the growth is not super easy, and neither was anything we learned in our life. Walking and talking and reading, and it all took discomfort and making mistakes and all that stuff. But somehow when we have a conversation around personal development, well, it better happen in 3 easy steps because that's what it said on the package. Well, it's not going to work like that. So, and that's why the failure rate in personal development is so freaking high. The programs and the information are great. They're solid. I mean, not all of them, but by and large, there's great information out there. But if the brain going through the program is not wired to receive it or be in alignment with the person who would implement this stuff, it's not going to happen. And chances are they won't even finish because they're going to hit that wiring at some point. It could be day one. And if they don't have the right kind of support system, a coach or some people who are at least on the same page, then their wiring is going to give them all the logical reasons to stop. You don't have time to waste on this. This is not who you are. You know, nobody really succeeds. All the whatever it needs to tell you so that you will stop growing. But the skill set of going, wait a minute, no, that's not true. It's just a program, and everybody has a different one. And the beauty of being human is we have the gift to reprogram. We just have to decide to do it. But we need motivators, emotionally based motivators, to keep us going because we're driven by emotion. We're driven by feeling certain ways. So that if we're going to reach a huge goal where we have to change who we are, we better at least think that it's going to feel great and and have some idea of what that feeling is that we're going for, because that's what's going to pull us through when we get stuck or when our wiring pops up. And even when we learn to get into observation mode, we still have to choose other thoughts and act in alignment with them. But look, here's the thing. I mean, that seems laborious at first, and it might feel that way. But just like walking and talking and driving a car and everything else felt laborious, but the payoff, when all of a sudden you stop being a person who automatically goes to the negative when a situation comes, to being resourceful, neutral, or even find new possibility, that is life changing. As everything changes and I know this because that's part of my story. And so, but it takes repeatedly giving your brain new information and not allowing yourself to respond in the old familiar ways, no matter how right you feel, because you can be right all day and your life won't change and you won't be happy. And by the way, you're only right to you and anybody else who's wired like you. Everybody else doesn't think you're right at all.
Ah, so true indeed. And I guess it goes the fact of who we choose to hang around or keep ourselves around and choosing what we want to believe and not being able to rewire ourselves properly.
That's correct, because it is not easy. Like I said, I mean, it's the hardest thing to change like that. And the longer the further along in life you are, the more kind of hardwired that those neural pathways can become. So it will be a little bit trickier, but that doesn't mean it's not worth doing. But you have to decide that it is. And the only way you're going to do that is to do some fun visioning and create visions that get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, until you get yourself excited. Even creating a vision for yourself requires the building of new neural pathways. It's not going to be automatic. You're not going to necessarily know. I have a group that I co-lead on Facebook called the 300 Wish List Group. And it's based on something that Steve Harvey brought up about writing down a list of 300 things you like to be, do, and have. And that's basically the exercise. Just write a list of 300 things you want to be, do, or have. And you think, okay, that'll be easy. And then at 72 or 3, you're like, I can't think of a thing. And it just shows you that, of course, there's thousands of things you could come up with, but you've hit a limit. Now you're judging whether or not you should put it on the list, whether it's possible, that's not the exercise. The exercise, put everything down you can possibly think of, no matter how big. But when we hit that wiring where we're challenged, now we're going to start being realistic. Can I ask for this much? I mean, I've seen people say that their goal is $15,000 in savings in the bank. $15,000. That's huge for them, right? But come on, 1.5 million. Let's think huge, right? But they're trying to be realistic, because we don't want to be disappointed and all of those things. That's not the exercise. When you understand that the reason we're writing these outrageous things is to literally stretch our brain and build new neural pathways for what is in the bubble of reality for us and how it feels. And we have to do that by pushing and pushing and pushing and building new muscles, if you will, by giving ourselves the permission to dream really freaking big, like really big, because this isn't an exercise about judging the viability or the reasonableness. It's just write 300 things you want to be, do, or have. You don't have to tell anybody what it is, and yet we still get stopped, which is extremely telling.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And I guess it's kind of like with folks being disappointed in life a lot of times, and depending on where they allow themselves to stay in, at least location wise, to be able to not allow themselves to give themselves permission to dream.
Absolutely, because again, every part of their environment is saying, this is who you are, this is where you belong. Who are you to leave and branch out and all of that other stuff? I mean, look, it's not everybody. You always hear about the exceptions to these situations where they're like, no way, I'm out of here. I'm bigger than this, right? But many people want that. They have this inner desire to leave or do something audacious, but they've got this who are you to do it that they've learned probably generationally. So it's in there, and sadly, a lot of those people will never take on rewiring. They'll never ever do it. They'll just live the rest of their lives out as it is, even though they can hear that, well, okay, it could change, but it's going to take a while, and I don't know, and just this. And we live in on a planet where people tolerate so much. I mean, just tolerate. And that's a lot different than surrendering to your situation or being grateful for what is. I'm talking about the little annoyances that people put up with every day that is affecting their quality of life that they could change. It might take some time, but they just won't do it. And sometimes it's little things like around the house, like a light bulb that has been burnt out for freaking 2 weeks. It would take you no time to go buy a light bulb and put it in and fix it. And yet we tolerate it for some reason. Well, just why don't we change it? That whole thing, although it seems silly, that's hugely telling about how we value ourselves and our state of being. Like, we don't care enough about it. on a regular basis annoyed by this thing that we could fix and we don't. What does that tell the universe and everybody else, and particularly ourselves, about how we feel about ourselves? And if we don't feel good enough about ourselves to not tweak these little tiny things, then why do we think we would deserve everything we want?
Yes, indeed. Need to give you a robe because my man preaching, baby. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Going to be a
Yes.
Victoria's Secret's robe.
I guess it wouldn't be a secret no more, huh?
No. Yeah, I'm getting more and more glad this is an audio only podcast. Although it's too bad. I mean, I've got a really nice set going here. It's all purple and recording studio. It looks really pro, but no one will ever know. Now they're picturing robes and models, and I don't know what they're picturing. It's theater of the mind, though. They can do whatever they want. And that is how you create a vision, my friend. See, we just showed you by an example.
Woohoo! There you go. 3 items off the 300, so a tithe of the way there almost. Well, part of a tithe of a way there.
A tithe of a tithe.
Yeah, there we
Or
go.
something. All right, don't make me do math, Tom. This is not my strong suit. Nobody ever introduced me on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, from The Secret and a math expert, please welcome Bob Doyle. That never, ever happened.
Who knows? Maybe it'll be a skid down the road on the Bob Doyle show, right?
Well, you know what? Now that you've put the idea in my head, it could be. Who knows what crazy stuff's going to happen on that show from day to day? We don't.
Heck, that's good too, and it's good that it's daily, and it's good that you like to have fun and mess around. So, for those who need to get more in touch with their playful side, like yourself, what will probably be your advice to them?
I'll watch the Bob Doyle show every day. There's no question. What? That's such a gimme.
Touche.
No, that's a great. You know what? That's a really fair question. I went through a really long period of time where I felt like I just had lost touch with my ability to play. But I did have one point of access, and that was the ukulele and puppies. So those are my soft spots for play. Like I could always change my state by playing with a dog, and I can always change my state and feel playful by picking up the ukulele. Those are my things, and everybody's going to have their own thing. But there's something you enjoy doing to play, as video games, or it could be whatever. Chances are, you know what it is. You're just not giving yourself the permission to do it. I don't have time. I should be working on this, that, and the other thing. Well, no, we're not here to work. We're here to enjoy the experience of life. Now, working facilitates the generation of revenue and income, which allows us to purchase a lifestyle that we enjoy. But we can also enjoy our lives without spending any money, like by playing with a dog or playing a musical instrument or doing whatever your hobby is, whether or not it makes you any money or not. So you have to just say, I'm going to do this for myself, even if it's 15 minutes a day. But we are playful in nature, human beings. We want to play, we want to create. And if we don't do it, we're going to feel it. It's going to back up in our energy system. We're going to feel crappy. We're going to get sick. We're going to be irritable. We're going to be stressed. We're going to feel worried because we're not expressing who we really are through play or creative or any kind of creative self-expression. It's what causes the problems we have today, Dom. So, I mean, people got to play.
That's right. Especially with the ukulele or some magical puppies.
You know what, Dom? I did some research. They don't even have to be magical. They could just be ordinary puppies that you just get at the shelter. They not one card trick would they have to do. They don't have to know how to banish anything. They don't even have to be able to speak the English language. I'm telling you, I've checked this out. It's true.
Sweet. You heard that right, folks. Go to your local animal shelter. Grab a puppy. Maybe two.
That's right. That's the whole message of this podcast today. Go to your local animal shelter.
Have your pet spayed or neutered.
That's right, friends.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All the corn likes to appear here out of the cornfield. But yes, indeed. So since this is far from your first ever rodeo podcast wise and being a shogun, among other things, in the voice department, what advice would you, not advice, what is there a question you wish you'd be asked more often when you're on podcasts like these?
That's a good question, because we touched on the things that I don't normally get to talk about, like playing and things like that. No, I think you're asking good questions. That's a good question, though. Now I'm going to think about that. I do enjoy it when people ask me a little bit more about like non-secret related things, aspects of me and why I do some of the things I do, because like the Bob Doyle show, which we're not really being clear on what that is. It's a daily, anywhere from 25 minutes to an hour long show that I do that's mostly just entertainment. And I just am there for it to have fun. Every now and then we'll interview an illuminary, we'll have a message, we'll do some good, we'll talk about something for real. But most of the time I'm just goofing off or playing with apps or playing in virtual reality or flirting with my girlfriend who sits next to me. It's just me being me. And I want people to know that part of me. And so I do like to talk about that, obviously, but it's not, I know that sounds like, yes, I just want to talk more about me and how creative I am. I say all that because I want people to know that they can be other things. They can express other aspects of themselves out in the world. And a lot of people don't, because it's so tied to, am I making money or whatever. The Bob Doyle show makes me no money at this point. Right now, it's just this thing that I do. It's a lot of fun. I'm creating tons and tons of content. And we are in development of a TV show, but it's not necessarily the Bob Doyle show. So it's led to all sorts of things. It's me honing my craft. And it's just, I think that people just really need to honor that creative side of themselves and allow them to do it. Because, they're one of the passion conversations that I could launch for hours on is kids and how, their brains, their wiring, and how different it is than ours, and what kind of chaos that is causing. And kids getting depressed because they don't feel like they fit in, because we as adults created a world that has got their heads so wired with technology, and now we're blaming them for it. Hey, put that thing down. You put it in my hand, right?
Yep.
And in my most vulnerable time of my life, when my brain is just sucking in everything, I've learned how to do inventory and craft and segment information in ways you'll never do, Dad, which is true. My kids, especially my son who grew up playing video games, his brain is so complicated in terms of how it processes information, is so different than mine. And it comes from like the games he's played and things like that. And the critical thinking skills he's developed that we didn't have that, and they learn, they're learning so differently than us. And yet we're putting them in the school system that is this old way, trying to feed brains that do not process information in this way. And of course they have trouble with it. And then they get labeled ADHD and they get put on the drugs and they turn into zombies. And there's no denying this. It's all over the place. And the problem is that kids have no way to express their passions, to fully explore their strengths and things like that, because the school system isn't set up for that. They're trying. New schools are being built to cater to this stuff, but right now there's still a whole generation or two or three of kids who are struggling. And guess what? As much of a technological leap from my generation, which I thought I was a geek, I was playing computer games. I thought I'd always beat my kid at computer games. I'm 30 something years older than him and I still play him every day. It took no time for his brain to get wired to be able to destroy me. Right. And that's how they could be out in the world if the world was built to support that kind of thinking. It will eventually, because these kids will grow up. But like my kids, if you think about how exponentially this is going, it's crazy how much happened in my lifetime technologically. But I don't see that slowing down from like when my kids have kids, which they're already doing. So it's like, then they're going to be the same thing. Those kids are going to learn at a totally different rate, a totally different way. And now my kids who are having trouble learning are going to have trouble teaching those because it's too fast. So luckily, Skynet's going to be built. The machines will take care of everything and nothing could possibly go wrong.
That's right. Absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Just ignore the cactus with the cowboy hat over there. Don't worry. It's all good.
The cactus with the cowboy hat. But anyway, yeah, so that's one of my favorite rants too, because it's because of that we have adults who need coaching, basically. Because we haven't gotten raising kids. I mean, we've raised fine adults, but You know, there's a lot of kids who don't even see entrepreneurship as an option for themselves at a time when anybody could be one. You know, if it's your calling, and so many people do find themselves as employees. Not that there are some people who fit great within structures and teams, and that's, you know, and they should be employees because that's what they're here to be. But then there are others who are wired differently, and I am one of those people. I do not work well in an employee relationship, and there's plenty of others who don't, but they do it anyway because they don't know how to get out, because they haven't been trained to think like an entrepreneur, or to think, more importantly, that they could learn the skills. And not only could they learn the skills, they could probably learn them online in a fraction of the time and cost as it would have taken, or it took their contemporaries to get a business degree. We can learn anything we want right now online, just about. And our kids do not need to necessarily spend tens of thousands of dollars on college and rake up these loans when they can go online and learn exactly and precisely the skill set they need to do exactly what they want to do it well, and make a ton of money so that they can live the life they want. You know, however that looks, whatever the dollar amount is for them. It's just a whole, you know, we have such an opportunity to have a generation of really successful and happy kids, and we're screwing it up by labeling them as ADD and not knowing what to do with their brilliance.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. He's preaching it again, folks. Preaching again.
You got me all riled up, Dom. See, I'm trying to keep it chill, and then you hit a passion point. I got all worked up. Sorry about that. I just want everybody to just take a deep breath and bring it on down. All right, that's better. That feels good to go down that road every now and then, but I don't know what to do about it exactly. I'm just one of those who knows it's an issue and sees why. Like, I have so much compassion for the kids because, you know, I watch my son struggle and I'm going, but what, you know, why is everybody yelling at him? We did this, you know. It's like video game, you know, you get, and all these kids addicted to their video games, and they get in trouble. They didn't, you know, somebody put that in their hand and said, okay, well, we'll let them do it this time and this time and this time. But here's the thing, that's not going anywhere. They may as well get great at it because everything in the universe is going that way. They may as well get great at using those devices to control their lives because that's what it's going to be. So, you know, you can slow them down or discourage them all you want, but it's not going to change anything. It's a different world, and we just have to accept it. And we may not like it that kids aren't as connected and friendly and whatever as, our generation. And just like the generation before us didn't understand us, every generation has no clue what's going on. We had it right. They don't know. And that's always going to be how it is because of wiring and evolution and and I just mean like technological evolution. You know, it's just we're all, these brains are going to be wired differently. It's the beauty of being human. So we just gotta, like, there was a point in my life where I just said, you know what, I don't need to learn how to play that game. I do not need to know how to craft anything. I just want to blow up a car or drive real fast, or, you know what I mean, like, keep it simple. But you know, learning that and just saying, okay, well, now I get it. Like, now I understand. Like, my grandmother, when I was in my 30s and stuff and 40s and internet was everything, and she used to love to communicate and hear from us. And, you know, we were terrible about calling. We were terrible about letters. But man, I would email her if she would just get it. And she had no interest. I'm like, it's the easiest thing. Someone will set it up for you. It's just like typing, but it's no interest. Well, do you know what? Now I get it. I mean, you know, I use email, obviously, but there's plenty of things coming along that I'm going, nope, don't need to learn TikTok.
Amen. Yes, indeed. Yes,
So that
indeed.
kind of stuff. It's just like, you know, just accepting, like, instead of looking out at the world and kids and what's wrong, well, how can we make our lives the best? And then what can we do to support this upcoming generation to pursue their passions? And how can we just admit that we don't know sometimes, and that we might actually have to work with them on coming up with a strategy, because we can't think like them. They've got the brains. They need to tell us how we can better support them. And boy, our generation doesn't want our kids telling us what to do. But you know what? Their brains, they got more going on than we do. So that's how it's always been. We're just going to get smarter as a species. But now, because of the technology, that's even more exponential, I believe. That's my Bob Doyle pseudoscience factoid of the day, but it makes sense to me. So I said it out loud, but then I gave a disclaimer, so I feel good about myself.
Hey, that's the only way to feel, right? Feel good about yourself, right?
Beats the alternative, Dom. It beats the alternative.
Oh yeah, that's why I gotta turn up the good, add extra O's, and make it good.
That's right. That's what I've never said, but I'm in full agreement.
That's right, and don't even need 3 more at all. Yes, indeed. All right, well, that one's going out the joke book, but yes, indeed, and it's so true, and it's great that you have that philosophy and be able to share that part of yourself because it's so true nowadays, and heck, even the generations to come, because technology is advancing. It's like, yeah, we don't have the full flying cars yet, but we still have other ways that are still advancing, and like we're able to get back up in space, for goodness sakes, recently.
Yeah, but I mean, like when we were kids, I don't know how old you are. When I was a kid, the whole idea of like video phones, forget it. I mean, maybe one day, but not in my lifetime. So the whole flying car thing, which is already happening, it's just not it. Who knows how quickly that'll happen? It will be surprised, I'm sure. It's the Jetsons, I'm telling you.
Ah, yes, indeed. Alexa's the mighty robot. I forgot her name though. I forgot the robot for the Jetsons.
You know what? I did too. But man, oh man, it is right there on the tip of my brain. It's making me crazy. I didn't even watch that show that much, but I do know it's in there. Oh, well, that's
Nope.
just an open loop. And the listeners to the podcast right now who know the answer are screaming at their phones.
Yep, this is what happens when some sprockets get loose.
Wasn't Sprocket something Spacely Sprockets? Wasn't that Jetsons?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yes indeed. That's
Good. We
right.
finally got the conversation to the Jetsons. I've been hoping that this whole time since the beginning we could just eventually get there. It's a long road, but what a pain.
Hey, better than rocket launching penguins, right?
At least 3 times better.
Yes, indeed. Especially if the penguins have ski masks too while they're shooting rockets.
Your visuals, Dom, are beyond compare.
Ah, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, yes, indeed. Well, coming down to the question that everybody gets to receive, and it doesn't even have to come in wrapping paper, and that is if you're to wake up tomorrow and you were 25 again, but this time in the current year of 2020, with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Start exercising. Don't wait until your body shuts down when you're 35. That would be one thing. And freaking dream big, dream big, dream big, dream big. It's funny. I've looked back. I've kind of asked myself the question, like, what would I do different in my life? I think you start to do that when you're 50 or somewhere around there. Would I do anything different? I'm sure there's some things, but you know what? It's led me here. So it's kind of like, and the journey I took and the things I didn't know have ended up actually helping people. Because if I hadn't gone that journey, I never would have been in the secret, and any contribution I made to that wouldn't have happened. And if I had any impact on anybody as a result of being in that film, well, it wouldn't have happened if I gone back in time and told myself this when I was 25. I would have ruined the whole thing. I would have single-handedly destroyed the secret because you made me go back in a time machine, Dom.
uh, it would have been the unsecret.
Or yeah, who knows? It would have been a horror film or something. The Secret.
That's right. The law of negation in action, right?
Sure. Just like the anti movie. It would have been complete. It's like What a Wonderful Life. If I hadn't George Bailey, like if I wasn't here, then The Secret would have been this scourge on the world, right? All right. Now we are really off the rails.
Sweet. All right. Good. Yep, kind of reminds me of that time I was a tree. Let me stop. That wasn't it. Oh, man. But yes, indeed. The beautiful thing about hindsight. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, of course, folks know where to reach you, but for those who want to know again, what's the best way for folks to reach out to the wonderful Bob
Well,
Doyle?
you know, Dom, I'm super easy to find on Facebook. You just search Bob Doyle, and there's no getting. I mean, I got pages galore. There's the Bob Doyle Show. There's Law of Attraction stuff. There's my personal page. There's my links to my Instagram, which is a whole other conversation. And then there's meetbobdoyle.com. That's kind of like your hub for all things Bob. And up at the top, it'll be mostly the law of attraction stuff that people know me for. And then it'll be more the more creative stuff, the stuff that maybe, and some, I do a lot of media consulting in addition to voiceover and stuff like that. And then you get down to the creative stuff. So, I've been hanging out online since 92, throwing content up there. And there's a lot. There's a lot of Bob to be had.
Woohoo! That's what I'm talking about. Enough Bob to go around, baby. And he's got all the
Wait,
apples, too.
there's enough for many people in many lifetimes. The playlist of the Bob Doyle Show alone, you could binge for months and not repeat. That sounds like a good plan, doesn't it?
That's right, folks. Even though one of the show titles says never binge again, binge on the Bob Doyle Show.
Oh, do you have a show title called that? No.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's about
Well,
binge eating. So,
oh well, that's yeah. Well, sure. Of course, that's different. We don't want nobody. We don't want that. But binging on Bob, well, that's different. I guarantee. Here's the Bob Doyle Show guarantee: you will produce more happy hormones than non-happy hormones. You may learn a thing or two, and you will not feel confronted in any way. We don't do controversy. We don't do politics. We don't do, all we do is have fun. That's it. So now, whether you think what I think is fun for you, well, that's, that's fun. That's for you to determine. I'm not qualified to answer that for you, but you are.
that's right, folks. He's the real deal, baby. That's right. The real deal Doyle himself, baby. Check out the Bob Doyle Show. Definitely fun. Probably a nice way of seeing a show in action that's all digital goodness.
That's right. It's all digital goodness. And Dom, thank you for having me. I was so thrilled to find your podcast and hear how you introduced every show. And I'm going, oh my God. Well, that's how I'm doing this show. This is the most chill dude I've ever been interviewed by in my life. So I am going to match that because why not? It's relaxing and fun. So good on you. 200 something, 89. You got a lot of episodes.
Oh yeah, the goal is 1,000.
That's, I've done podcasting. I got a few out there, and I know how it takes a lot of commitment to put out that much content, and almost different music almost every show too. Intro music, but all of it with that vibe. You know what I'm saying? That's right. You always just ease into this show. Sometimes you do the quote at the beginning. Like, are you going to do a quote at the beginning for me? You're going to pick something out of this interview and it's going to sit there and then you're going to do the music? Because sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. I don't know what that decision-making process is. Do you flip a coin? Do you have a dream?
It's just random, to be honest. It's all random.
There you
But
go.
for
It's
you,
perfect. See?
definitely. For you, definitely though, it's gonna have a quote in the beginning.
All right. I think you ought to use that drop of me asking you if you're going to do it.
You know what? Consider it done.
Oh man, I cannot. This is the most anticipated podcast I have ever been on. Just because I want to hear the opening.
Woohoo! Well, definitely indeed. So, any parting words for the folks still listening?
Hey, they better all be. Not only are they still listening, they've gathered friends and family. So there's more now than there were at the beginning. I think really just my overall message is that we really are here to grow and expand, just like the rest of the universe. And so that pull you have inside you, that calling in your heart, is there for a freaking reason. And whatever the wiring is in your brain telling you why you can't do it, shouldn't do it, won't do it, well, it's all just nonsense and programming. And if you're willing to admit that to yourself and see the truth of it and know that your brain is ready to change, when you're ready to change the communication, then that should feel extremely empowering. And then it just becomes the fun task of deciding, all right, well, what do I want life to look like? Starting with who am I going to be? Those are my words of wisdom, Tom.
You just got done listening to another powerful, power-packed episode of the Going North podcast. I hope you really enjoyed what you heard. You made it all the way to the end. You get to hear all sorts of goodness. I was just best, but you just got done hearing some goodness. Go check out the guest stuff. It's all in the show notes on the website, donbrightman.com, and also reach out to those that you've just heard as well. And keep rocking it, because you yourself are phenomenal for making it this far. And keep going north.